Welcome to another Clever Dicks podcast. In this podcast, we talk to Mark Lenaarts. Mark is an Auckland-based New Zealand swimmer who, like many, has done some amazing swims. He grew up around a pool and then, like some, got lost a little bit through the teenage and early 20 years, but got back into it, basically at the Te Awamutu. Decided to do some longer swims, so did the Rottnest swim and did the first ever chopper challenge. We talked quite a lot about his Cook Strait swim. There was quite a long build up to it. It took him 4 years before he was able to attempt it. And it's a lot more than just a physical preparation, but also the mental and emotional side of it. This was a wonderful chat. I think you're going to absolutely love it. Okay, well, welcome to another Clever Dicks podcast. And this one we're talking to Mark. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks very much for having me.
Cool. So, Mark, we usually start by just giving you a bit of an opportunity to tell us your swim story. What is swimming to you? How did you get into it? What did you do?
I suppose going back to the start, I grew up in Te Awamutu, and my dad ran the local swimming pool, and he was originally a Dutchman, still a Dutchman. He's passed away now, but he, in the 70s when I was born, actually helped out training Sally McKim, who would have been the first woman to get across the Cook Strait.
Nice.
And she got within a mile, and then the tide changed. And she was pretty young. I think she was 17 or 18 at the time. So Mum said, and he's quite a chatty guy, and Mum said, Dad pretty much didn't talk for a couple of days after coming back. He was so devastated by the fact that she hadn't quite made it, and she trained for a whole year for it. And she was a superstar swimmer, like amazing swimmer. So that planted a seed, I think. That was always a bit of the family story. And so I just grew up at the local swimming pool with my older brother Grant, my younger sister Kim, and we just played in the pool all the time. Dad was a swimming teacher and ran the pool. And so we just grew up in a pool playing all the time. And I just love swimming, and I loved racing when I was a kid, and I was pretty good up until about 10 or 11. And then the kids who were actually training came flying past me, and that was pretty much the end of my swimming career. I was like, training? What's that?
I just want to be in the water. I don't want to have to. Yeah.
And if someone had actually told me the benefit of training and how fast I could have been if I trained, just those little funny things that happen.
You probably would have burnt out and you wouldn't be swimming now, right?
That's highly likely. It's way too much time in the pool as a kid, but we were there every day growing up. It was cool.
Cool. And you swam through your teens. After school, you swam. Has it been something you've always done, or was there a gap where you stopped for a long time?
So I didn't swim from about 12.
Yep.
And I got into. I just played all sorts of sports: tennis, hockey a lot. I trialled for the New Zealand junior team for them, and then I went to teachers college to train as a PE teacher. Did that, and I just got really lazy. When I knew I wasn't going to make the New Zealand hockey team, I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So you can sense the theme. And I just ended up getting really lazy and doing nothing, putting on like 15 kilos. So I was just a big round mark for probably 10, 15 years. And just met my wife, Michelle, and she just come back from trying to get the Olympics as a sailor. And I met her and I thought, she's just an amazing quality person, and she's out training all the time.
You better raise your game.
I better do something. So I was like, what can I do? And I'm like, swimming's something I used to be all right at.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something to do. So I just went and turned up at swim squads down at Te Awamutu Baths with Hayden, Woolley, and just got stuck into it. And that was the pathway back to getting fit again.
How long ago was that?
That would have been about 15, 20 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 20 years.
Cool.
Yeah.
20 years ago, that you would have
maybe
been
15,
by then.
Actually.
You would have been down at...
Yeah, I've been swimming at the tips for that. No, not in his morning squad, but...
Yes.
Yeah. I originally started, and that's where I met Vic. There was a swim squad there called the Flat Nanas that went on Tuesday, Thursday and Friday nights.
Brilliant.
And Hayden ended up taking over that and got absorbed into the whole Future Dreams thing. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it was great training for me, and I liked it because he would throw some racing in there. and I started seeing my times coming down, and that was quite sort of motivating for me.
Yeah.
And I'd always had this dream as a kid of breaking a minute for 100 metres. And the fastest I'd ever done was 1:04 at school when I was about 17, on no training, of course. But and yeah, one night I broke the minute, and I was just in tears. It was just awesome. Like, I couldn't believe I'd actually done it. So that was cool. And kudos to Hayden for getting me back in.
In a training session or at a gala?
So we did like a Friday night. He would do it once a month, and it would be all handicap racing.
Yeah.
And I was only good for 100 metres, and you had to do 3 if you got through the next rounds.
Okay.
And I'm a one and done swimmer, and I needed about 3 hours to recover. I'm absolutely useless. Totally useless.
So you swam sub 1 and the second one was like 1:30 or something like that.
I didn't go past the second round into the final. Yeah, and I did not care.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I was walking on cloud 9 for the whole night.
Yep.
After that, I couldn't believe it.
So what got you thinking about open water swimming?
Dad had done, like, he'd swum the Rangitoto swims, and he used to take swimmers across to the Lake Rochemar swim and out of Rotorua and do 2K swims. And he quite liked doing the sort of 2K open water Lake Kirapiro swims. But he'd do it with my older brother, who's a much better endurance person than me. Yep. I always thought I was a sprinter, but it turns out I'm probably not.
Yes.
I'm not an out-and-out sprinter, and I'm not out-and-out endurance.
That's probably the best combo, right?
Yeah, or somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And he was more like a 400-metre runner and stuff, so maybe I'm sort of somewhere in that middling posse. But I just didn't know.
1,500-metre top up,
Yeah. So I just started doing some of the smaller ocean swims and just doing 1K and 2K stuff. And then I thought, I wouldn't mind doing the Rangitoto swim. And I did that, and it was a really big ocean day, and I got smashed, and I was just got destroyed and dragged myself up the beach at St Helens and thought, bugger that, I'm never doing that again.
It can be quite gnarly, that one.
Yeah. So, and then I just kept doing a few more of those. So it sort of started from that, and I went, well, if I can do the Rangitoto one, and then I heard about Lake Taupo, the 10-kilometre challenge. Yep. And there was a couple of people at squads who were thinking about doing it. And I was like, holy smoke, that's crazy. And I thought that would be a really good mission. And I think through my childhood and teenage years and being in my 20s, I always liked the idea of doing an adventure from a point to a point.
Yeah.
One summer at uni, I just had 3 weeks with no job. And I was just like, how am I going to fill my time until uni starts again? And I just worked for 7 or 8 weeks, thought I needed a break. Yeah. So I just bought a bike and rode to Cape Reinga. And
nice.
And got a bike, bought a little tent, and set off the next day. And I'd never done, like, I was so unfit. And again, like,
and you weren't a cyclist, right?
No, not at all. I was hopeless on a bike. And cycling out to Waiwera and just like camping on the beach, just going, oh, that was 45 Ks. Holy smoke. It took me the whole day to get there. Like, how am I going to survive? But it was such an awesome mission. And the first week was just trying to get fit. The second week was pretty okay. And the third week, like, I was just meandering and stopping at every bay and having, a good time. Yep. And like the third week, I was just so fit. Yep. And came back, and everyone's like, holy smoke, what happened to you? And I'm like, I don't know, I just went for a ride. Yep. And then I'm like, you look totally different. And I'd lost like over 10 kilos because I was eating like noodles on a little gas stove. And I'd have like some muesli for breakfast at like 9 o'clock when the tent got too hot. Yep. And that was it. But
and obviously lots of exercise at the same time, right?
Yeah, it was cool. And you just meet some amazing people.
Hey, maybe that's what I need to do. Go and bury my 10 kilos somewhere at Cape Reinga on a bike ride. See you guys next month. I'm going to go lose some weight.
Well, I think, losing weight wasn't the goal. It was just...
It was nothing. And I didn't know it was happening. Yeah. I just knew I was getting stronger legs and feeling fitter. And I wasn't caring about that, but I came back and I was like, oh, okay.
Like this.
Yes.
So that would be an awesome idea. You should have done that 25 years ago.
I need to do it again.
Well, don't phone me. I'll do the car transport, right?
Yeah.
So you got more and more into open water swimming then?
Yeah, so went down into Lake Taupo. That was about
the 10K, yeah?
Yeah, the 10K, and I was absolutely shitting myself before, and I was in tears, and I was just terrified, and it was totally awesome. It was just a great day out, and I've been training pretty hard, but you just don't know when the best swim you've done is 4.5 Ks, and you're more than doubling it, and can you cope with that? And I kind of fell apart a little bit on the fourth lap because I went out just at one pace, and it just fell apart a little bit on the last little bit, but that's kind of part of the journey, and I don't think I've ever swum that swim smartly.
This is the epic, right?
Yeah. And so 4 laps, 2.5 Ks each, and a feed whenever you want. So, yeah, I just took a couple of gels and chucked it down the back of the tobs and off we go. So it was, but walking out of there, it was just, I think I had about 20 lollies out of the bucket. The ladies, you know, the look on her face was a bit shocked at how many lollies I took out of her bucket. But it was cool, and I remember just getting a little medal for the age group afterwards. And there weren't that many doing open water swimming back then. Like, I think I got second. There's no way I'd ever come second now. And so it was just cool, and it gave me quite a lot of confidence. So I came back into the next year, and that was a week before our wedding. So, you know, the timing was pretty insane, and we had our first child. So there was a lot going on.
And that was wetsuits, mate?
No.
No, tops.
Have
you ever swum in a wetsuit?
Actually, look, I could be wrong on that. I'm just trying to think back to, was I swimming in a wetsuit then? I was swimming in a wetsuit then. Yeah, it was definitely a wetsuit.
Okay. That's pretty normal to guys to start off in the wetsuits and then lose them down the line. Okay.
Yeah, it took me a while to lose the wetsuit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a week away from the wedding, and a sort of relatively young baby at home, and training for a 10K race. Okay. Sleeping on the couch a little bit?
No.
You did pretty well.
I still managed to stay in the bed, which was good. Michelle doesn't feel so fondly about my swimming now. There's been a lot of hardship on that front. So, you know, doing something big is not easy on your relationship and your family.
Sure.
And I think it's really interesting, that conversation about the trade-offs. You know, and I haven't been very good at it. And lots of people go, wow, that's awesome, you know, swimming a 10K swim, or, you know, doing whatever. And you go, and that's what people look at, and you go, you don't know the half of it.
The other
you don't know what's going on at home. You don't know how stressed I was. You don't know how hard some of those days were, and how I wanted to give up, you know, 20 times.
But what would happen if you didn't do it, though? You know, you'd be worse off as a person, right?
Yes.
So
and that's it. So swimming's been incredibly helpful for me to bring a little bit more balance, because I can get a little bit too singular and focused sometimes on things, and I can do with swimming as well. Or I just feel really out of balance. So you've got your relationship, you've got your family, you've got your work, and you've got some other things going on in your life, hopefully. And then you've got this, and I find if I do some exercise, then I'm just a better person. I'm more positive. I've got much better energy, and I can cope with a lot. Like, it really calms me down. When I'm not, I've just got energy in me, and I just get frustrated, or stuff just sets me off a little bit more, and it just takes those little bit of edges off that can to spark up sometimes.
It's so, it can be so tricky trying to get that balance between, you know, as you said, exercise makes you better, but if you spend too much time exercising, the relationship or the work or something else is going to do it. So, you know, it swings and roundabouts, and can be challenging, right?
Completely challenging.
So I've got an idea. Do you want to share your wife's cell phone number with me?
Yes.
And I think what we'll do is we'll get Jono's wife on here as well. We definitely won't get my wife on here, because that's not going to work out well for me or for the podcast. And we'll ask them for their side of the story, right?
Look, and I think
because you make it sound like you got all your shit, all the ducks are in a row.
No, so far from it. And Sarah's different with Jono, you know. And And, each relationship is different,
Yes,
and each people have different perspectives, but you've also got really different things going on at home.
Yes.
And, we had one child, and then number two, and then number three.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping going and wanting to sort of step things up and keep going on adventures. And when they're super young, that's intense.
But when they're older, they can come with you,
They can do.
How old are they now?
13, 10 and 8. And they've each found completely different things to what we've been into.
Yep.
So Toby does road cycling.
Yes.
Simone
Well,
does.
he's inspired by your ride to Capricorn.
He's a much better rider than I. He can actually ride. I'm better at eating noodles from on stage. I'm still useless on a bike. And Simone does dance, musical theatre. And Lockie, he's into soccer. He actually quite likes the water.
Cool.
And so it's just like they're into their thing. Just get in behind it.
Yep.
Whatever spins their wheels,
Yeah,
actually. And just we just want to get in behind that. And if they feel confident and got out the back of it,
100%.
that's totally awesome.
They got mates. They're outside the house. They're in the sunshine. Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So, couple of 10Ks under the go. Surely that you're done and dusted. Now it's time to spend time with the family, right?
So there's a bit of family stuff going on. Just trying to keep the lights on with work. Gillian and my swim squad at Lenaarts at YMCA went across and did the 20K swim over at Rottnest Island. So Perth out to Rottnest.
Yeah.
And she went and did that, and I was like, wow. And she came back, and 3 months later was like, I'm thinking I might go and do it again. It was amazing. And I was like, just sat on that and had a bit of a chat with Michelle and signed up for that. So that was a pretty, again, terrifying swim. An epic adventure, like let's go on a plane trip, me and Michelle. And the two older ones stayed at home, and Michelle was 4 months pregnant at the time, and she came out on the boat. But Gillian and I swam it together, and we had another couple of swimmers over from New Zealand as well. And it was a really cool experience. So it wasn't an easy swim.
So you got to have a proper boat as well as a kayaker with you on that swim, right?
Yeah. So you're standing on the beach, and at 6 a.m, and they set you off in waves of 100 swimmers. There were 300 solo swimmers, and then there's about 1,500 people doing it in teams. And it's on the news every night for the entire week because it's sponsored by the news network. And it's massive. So ocean swimming all over the media in Perth is hilarious from there's about 10 people doing this in New Zealand. No one really does 10K, 20K swims really.
Yes.
And it's like, this is bonkers.
Yeah.
And so you turn up and you see 500 boats 1 kilometre out.
Yeah.
And you've got to swim out and find your kayak. And then that kayak takes you to the boat, which is 2 Ks out actually.
Yep.
And then you swim for the next 18 Ks with a boat beside you.
So there's a balloon on the kayak, or the swimmer's got a balloon on, or I've got a pink cap. Hey dude, I'm the only one with a pink cap.
Yeah. So you
turns out there's 50 of you with pink caps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our crowd just had a yacht. And so they said, we're going to be at the far left. We are not like a launch.
Yeah.
So we have less capability and movement than some of these other ones, and we're less confident. So we're going to peel out the left.
Yep.
So that was pretty easy to get to.
Yep.
And we didn't have any issues. So that was cool. But I got out. First 10Ks, we were just going a little bit slow. We were trying to break 6 hours. We didn't do it. We did it in 6.5. But I remember just breaking it at about 14 Ks or something. Gillian was just flying, and I was like, what is she doing? She's sprinting.
Yeah.
And every feed stop I'd have a loo stop, and then she'd just tootle off, and I'd try and catch her up, and it was getting harder and harder. So for 2 Ks, it was actually probably 4Ks. I just had this massive struggle, and she was just smoking me. And then in the last 2Ks, I just got this ray of sunshine coming through me, and I was just like, the finish line's coming. I can see the lighthouse. The island's getting closer. The pub's open and pumping. The music's going. There's heaps of people in boats. It's epic, and I was just on just on a high. It was amazing. And there's just boats everywhere. Choppers over. Had a chopper fly overboard, and I was like, "Oh, Gillian, this is so cool." She's like, "What do you think the freaking chopper's doing?" And swimming with shark nets or Fremantle and stuff. Like this is a weird experience. It's just like, oh god, and people being eaten on the beach at Cottesloe. There's 3 or 4 people, and that's the start line. Are you serious? But it was cool.
But they've never had any issues in the race itself, right? Or have they?
No, they've had a couple. They called off the race entirely once with a shark, and they pulled out a whole group of swimmers when they had another shark incident. Some people got through and got there, and the slow ones down the back were okay, and the ones in the middle all got pulled out. They've had a couple, but it's so well run. Massive briefings, it's all recorded, like it's so slick, and you go, wow, this is what it could be. What could it be here in New Zealand?
Could be as big or bigger, man.
Yes. But beautiful swim, and you're basically swimming out, it feels like a reef or something. You can see the bottom for about 3/4 of the swim, and it's clear as anything, 10 metres deep. You've got this beautiful seaweed just swishing on the bottom, and you're just like, are you kidding me?
That must be so cool.
Like, it was just beautiful. And it's cold over there. It's like 2021. Like I was thinking Perth, 40 degrees. It's going to be roasting that water. Oh, no, it's the same as here. Okay.
But that's quick swimming, right? So the long stuff that you've done up until this stage, you're still racing it effectively, right?
Trying to figure out how to race it. Like trying to figure out what kind of a pace can we go. And Gillian and I were a really similar pace at different swims, and we would just be to and fro. And it's really nice having a partner like that. Like it just helped with the emotional load. Like I would always just look and spot her and just knew that she was there, and it was just like it would really calm me down. I hate swimming by myself for training. I'm terrified of sharks. Just absolutely terrified of sharks. Don't like going out at night.
But sharks don't like bankers, from what I understand.
There's many things that don't like bankers. So that was really cool to have that experience, and then came back, and the first day I got back at work, I was just like, oh man, I'm going back to work. Oh shit, I don't want to be here. Someone goes, oh, there's the dude on like the 3rd floor is like organising a swim from Waiheke Island into the city. I'm like, Jesus, who's this? So, got in touch, and Oliver was teeing up the first Waiheke swim. And so that was a month later. And it just gave me something. I would have gone into a massive downer, because you do after a big swim.
Yeah, you do, hey. We need to figure that psychology out, hey. Because it's definitely like somebody called it Brianna. She was like, it's like a post-traumatic PTSD vibe after a big swim,
Yes.
Which is interesting, because I mean it shouldn't be, right? It should be
no, but the same thing happens. You talk to the guys who've done the comrades, the big runs and things. It's just a common thing. I think you just got to know that it's likely to happen and have a bit of a strategy to how to deal with it.
I think it's really interesting. Jono helped me with that, because he said just expect a down, expect a really big down. And it was really good advice to actually have, to know that that's a likely thing
it's normal. If you normalise it, then it's easier to deal with.
And lots of people are just like, wow, and you should be in celebration mode. And it's interesting. I think you should celebrate these things, because it's really good for you. It's really good on so many levels, and you can put it to work in many areas in your life. But to celebrate it, you don't need to be Kiwi humble all the time and just be really low key and thanks. It's actually, yes, that was totally awesome. It was a great day. I learned so much. But
I'm a legend. Yeah.
Yeah, like boom. And you do kind of want, part of I have really mixed feelings about it because part of me is wants to run down the line and do high fives with everyone, and it's like it's just totally joyous.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are really behind you in that, and just actually, just celebrate with you.
Yes.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And there might be some other people out there that don't feel that, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be a dick about it. But you want to be okay with it.
I was talking to Brian, and he ended up chatting to this guy with his wife and everything. And this guy was talking to me. He says, "Oh, you're a swimmer. There was a guy who swam around Waiheke Island." And Brian's, yeah. And then his wife came along and said, "Did you know that was Brian?" "Oh, was it you?" "Brian." "Yeah!" Absolute celebration. Yeah, he was trying to sort of play. "Yeah, it's me."
100%, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so came back from the 20K and then got involved with Waiheke to St. Heliers.
Yeah, further in actually, into Mechanics Bay, right where the rescue helicopter finished.
Yes.
Well, it's not there now, but like right at that base. And that was amazing coming. Like there was only 8 of us doing it that day.
Yeah.
What felt like an never been done before adventure. And those are the best adventures, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's like you feel like you're breaking ground. I definitely wasn't breaking ground because me and Gillian were down the back and the speedsters were out the front. So that's all good. But we had really good weather. The wind was behind us perfectly, and the currents were good. And we came in like 5.5 hours, and we were the last 2 in. And they sent out the rescue helicopter 200 metres from the finish at the breakwater, and they dropped one of the guys out of the chopper, doing the whole
like a rescue vibe.
Yeah, rescue, hands crossed on the chest into the water, and this thing's right over the top of you, spraying everything everywhere. And I was just like, holy smoke, it just doesn't get any better. Jillian's just like, can we just hurry up and get to the finish? And I was like, it was so funny because, but like sometimes I get a bit of a high, and she was having a really tough day out. And, we'd been through this massive boil up of fish, and our kayaker had just peeled out the front and taken off.
Yes.
And we swam through like thousands of birds just
gives me the heebie-jeebies. I did that with you once.
Yeah, you didn't enjoy that.
No.
Yeah.
It felt like it was like a kilometre wide, and it wasn't, but it was probably like 200 metres wide, but they were just everywhere. And we got out the other side and just looked at this dude kayaking with us, Lloyd. And
so when we did it, same story, just freaking birds everywhere.
Yeah.
And these guys decided straight through the middle.
Yeah.
And I was like, not a chance. I don't know what's going on underneath there.
Yeah.
And I did a massive detour, and I literally swam around this whole thing and caught them back up again. I wasn't too keen to go through that day.
That was probably a wise approach. I was
just thinking, man, these are wild animals. They're used to living out there. I'm sure they can miss somebody as big as me.
Yeah.
I do not look like a fish.
Sure.
So I just thought, luckily I don't have a big sort of imagination. I can just sort of turn off the brain and just go. So,
Low IQ, right?
Yeah, because a couple of years
very
later,
low IQ.
I did it as part of a team from the bank, and there were 3 of us doing it, or 4 of us. And so I was in the water, and coming up to the end of my half-hour swim slot, and the kayaker came over to me, and I was like, oh, do I need to get out now and go to the boat? And he's like, no, there's a whale ahead.
Huh.
And I was like, what? So I looked straight ahead, and probably 200 metres further up is an orca just coming out of the water and over. And I'm just like, wow. That was unbelievable. And I wasn't scared at all. And I didn't know anything about orcas.
Yeah.
I'd never come across one in my life.
So you called it an orca, not a killer whale.
Yes. Yeah. So we had that chat later after the swim. And then someone reassured us that they've never actually killed a human.
Oh, they have. Just
intentionally.
not in the wild, yeah.
Yes. And so I was just sitting there in awe of this orca just peeling out of the water. And the kayaker's like, get over to the boat now. So I was like, oh, roger that. Okay, it looks serious. So I swam over, hopped up on the transom, and the orca came under the boat and popped up and had a little baby with it and had a big stingray cut out of its mouth. And it was a metre from me. Yeah. And I'd only just got up like 5 seconds before.
You just come in to say hi?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was just like, and then the whole boat's looking at me. You're thinking I'm absolutely cacking myself.
Yes.
And I'm like, so I'll just get back in now, eh? And they're like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's okay. And they're radioing to all the other swimmers in behind. But like, what a highlight! Like, amazing to see.
That would be
out
so
there.
cool.
Yeah. So absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
So I went swimming a couple of weeks ago at Camels Bay in the morning with my little swimming buddy Shazil.
Yeah.
And we went out and back, and we sort of came out of the water at about 7 o'clock in the morning. And he's always got his mum waiting for him.
Yeah.
Special needs little guy, so he's always, he always shows his muscles, and he's like, yeah. And I'm always focused on him, And I noticed a little bit of activity, sort of also 100, 200 meters just towards Marangi Bay from where we were.
Yeah.
And I said to Shamime's mum, I said, look, what's going on there? She goes, I don't know, it's just a bunch of swimmers standing there just talking nonsense. They've been talking nonsense there for about 15 minutes. So I got home, showered, dropped the kids at school, went to work. And as I was driving, the guys were starting to message this video clip of a couple of the bay-to-bay swimmers that had come across this pod of orca. And they were literally playing in the beach, in the waves, with an orca. And we just swam right past them, didn't even know they were there,
Yeah.
And you sort of stop and you think, well, what happens if they came to, Shazil and myself as opposed to those guys?
Yeah.
What would I have done? Because I've come across a dolphin once, and I shit myself because this thing came up and it was a fin, and I was like, oh my God. And also, exactly, in my head, it felt like it was like half an hour, but it was probably 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And as soon as it sort of beached the water, and I was like, okay, I'm all good, right? But I don't know what I would do if an orca popped up next to me. I'd like to think I'd be, give it a pat and, all good. But I think I would scream and walk on water and have to change my togs at the end.
Completely. Well, I think the guidance, like, don't go within 200 metres or something. They say, like, just steer well clear. And I know that's probably really conservative guidance, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, my thinking on that one is I don't mind staying 200 metres away. It's whether they do the same rules. Because if they want to swim close to you, you got no chance because they just move so much faster and smoother. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of stand back and just try and do the respect thing with the dolphins and just see if they want to interact. I just want to run. I've run down the beach, like when they're at the beach, I'm going to run down the beach and get in the water, and I've done it in the middle of winter, and, Michelle and I have done it down the bottom of Southland. And just
with orca?
Just with dolphins. Yeah. And, and the catlins just saw them and just ran 400 metres down the beach, and it was freezing, and we were screaming getting in the water. This pre-winter swimming.
Yes.
And it was exhilarating and terrifying at the same time.
Did you make it to the pod?
Yeah, we got there, and there were 3 or 4 just diving through the waves, and it was unbelievable.
It's pretty cool, eh?
Oh, yeah.
It was super cool.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, we'd all be able to quit our jobs at the bank and at the wherever we are and just do these adventures all day long, right?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. But maybe the adventure's actually worth it because here's everyday life. And occasionally you get this little gem that comes along, and it makes it stand out a little bit more.
That's why I swim through winter, because it makes me appreciate summer more. I do love swimming in warm water.
A good approach. Go through a lot of hardship to get a reward.
Yeah. Getting in the water is, I'm such a wuss. So.
Well, I'm totally useless at it. So I haven't done any winter swimming at all, ever. When I'd go down in the Coromandel, I would go down there at Christmas time, and I pretty much wouldn't get in until January or sometimes February, because I'm like, it's just too cold.
Yeah.
I never liked swimming in cold water at all. I always liked the warm water. And weird thing that I confessed to Michelle last summer, we were at the beach and I said, I don't like swimming in the ocean. I don't actually like swimming. I'm scared of swimming in the sea. I had it from my childhood going out to Raglan and Carfair, and I was terrified of rips and being taken out into the ocean, and I just didn't have the skills to handle being in the waves. And she just was looking at me like, what?
Yeah. After all these things we've done.
Yeah. And I'm like, yep, I don't actually fundamentally like it. And I'm scared, you know.
But a healthy respect is good, right?
Yeah, I think it's wise. And I've gotten into a bit of grief on a couple of training swims.
By yourself?
By myself and out with Jono a couple of times and Caitlin. And there's a couple of moments there where you just go, that's just going pretty close to the edge of what I can do or should do. I can tell you a couple of swims that I've been on if you want.
Yeah, give us an example. Because it's important to do these things in a safe environment, right?
Clever Dicks is New Zealand's largest swim-focused podcast, and our team at Swimscapes is proud to be their official partner with all things swimming. Swimscapes offers boat piloting and safety for solo marathon swims, as well as various packages including marathon relay swims, swim camps, and swim adventure holidays. Swimscapes is also a facilitator of the Auckland Triple Crown, coming soon. Proudly brought to you by Swimscape.
Yeah, I started winter swimming just because I decided after doing those 20k swims that I should try and swim the Cook Strait.
Yep.
And it had been sitting in the back of my mind for
Which is cold.
time. And it's cold. So 14 degrees is what you're probably looking at, up to 16 if you're lucky. Well, that's just Auckland in winter. So you're going to have to do it. So I signed up with Philip Rush in May or June, and I just decided that weekend I had to start.
Start with the cold water.
Yeah. So I came to Takapuna and hopped in, and I was just screaming like a baby. And I hated it. And I still hate it. I still hate going in. But, that first 100 metres, 200 metres of just like, you're just screaming underwater because it's just so painful, so sore, so counterintuitive, messing with your brain. And then after 400 metres, you start to burn for that first kilometre and all that blood's rushing into your core.
That's the cool part of it.
And that's quite a good feeling. And then the rest of it's kind of okay to a point, and then sometimes it can get really uncomfortable.
If you go a little bit too far,
Yes, yeah. And there've been definitely swims like that. So I really struggled with the cold water.
Yeah.
And that first winter, I don't think I adapted very much at all. We did one 10k swim, 3-4 hour swim.
Yeah.
And I just came out and I was purple. And like, there's photos of me coming out on the beach and I was just shaking the whole way walking up and just, pretty hypothermic and definitely purple. And it would take me an hour to feel my left foot, and it would take me 2 hours to feel my right foot. And I'd be shaking like this with cups of coffee for at least an hour. It was always a bit of a joke, you guys sitting at the cafe and stuff sometimes, and just sitting up there with the Beta Bay crew, and just I'd be the one doing this, and they're all just looking at me, and I'm trying to get it in my cup of coffee.
You got to have a lid on the cup, otherwise it goes everywhere.
I really need some warmth and some caffeine and some energy, and it's just really darn hard. So some of those hard swims were that first winter. Training was just
maybe too much too soon type thing. Hey, you definitely have to acclimatise and learn how to do it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for me, the second winter was better and the third winter was really okay, and that's just a body adaptation. But I think it was also a mental adaptation.
Yeah, because I think all the cold water kills off the brain cells and it becomes, easier because you're stupider.
Yes.
Yes.
I couldn't possibly comment. Yeah, so some of those training, so I'm sorry to loop back, I get free rein sometimes. Jono, he was awesome because he would just touch base every week, and it'd be like, right, and we would go out for Sunday swim. So I'll do a Saturday swim out from Takapuna, and there'll be 7 or 8, 10 people there, and we'd do 3Ks or 5Ks, but we would often go off, a couple of us, and do longer swims and do 10s and stuff. Yep. But Sunday was a 10K kind of a day, and we would do that a lot and do 10s and 12s and 15s and things. One day, and Jono, after he did Cook Strait, was really inspiring, and he turned up the first 2 hours of his swim was massive seas, 2 metre seas, and then it sort of flattened out over the day. But he said he'd never seen anything like it. So, he would just say, come on, let's go out. And I didn't like going out. I get really seasick on boats. I'll throw up at least 50% of the time on a boat. Yep. So my motion sickness is not great. And so we just went out the back of Mairangi Bay, turn up in the car park. It's 2 metre seas. He's like, we're doing a 10K swim today. And I'm like, I just want to go home. Yeah. Like, there's no way. And there was a lady in the car park that saw us get out, and the wind was howling. And it's like, we're just going. There's just no yes or no with Jono. It's an amazing way to be. He's incredibly resilient and much mentally harder than I am. Yep. And so I'd just turn around and go to the coffee shop and go home if it was me. But because you're going with one of your buddies, you're signing up and it's a contract and you've got to do it. So this lady saw us from out the back of the breakers and peeled left, and we just disappeared up several bays, and we came back. We only swam for a while and came back and had done about an hour, and I threw up out the back and said, Jono, I think I'm just going to actually come in. Like, fill your boots if you want to carry on. Yep. So he came in with me, and we were coming into the beach, and there were 3 police cars. And they'd sent the chopper out, and heaps of the ocean swimmers, for some reason, were on some police radio, and had heard what was going on. Yeah. So the swimming community knew that
I remember the story clearly, yes.
And so I've got this photo of Jono having a chat with the coppers, and we just felt really... like walking out the beach, I'm like, oh shit, okay. I kind of have an inkling of what may have happened.
Yes.
And just, why are they even here? Yeah. Like, we are really good at this. Like, this is just bread and butter. Like, we've got to do training. This is what we do. And I'm like, dude, I think actually it's a slightly different situation. We need to do a mea culpa to the police here, and get out of this one. Yeah. So I was just like, look, this is a situation, we're really sorry. She didn't know what we're up to, but this is what we do and what we're training for.
Yeah, good on her, right, for raising the flag. She was concerned.
Yeah. So just so funny, and we offered to shout them a coffee around the corner and stuff, just to,
Did you guys have tow floats with you?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, we swim with tow floats every single time.
I was a surf lifesaving duty officer at that time, but I wasn't on duty that day. And I saw some of these messages coming through, so I phoned up and I said, guys, you got to close this down. Those guys are okay. Yes. I saw Jono this morning. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. Close this down.
Oh, we got so many messages after that, and I was like, where did this come from? Like, who's like on this? Yeah. So that was kind of funny. Another time, just did a 10K swim with Caitlin and Jono, and swam 5Ks down one way, got to the end, turned around, and I just wasn't feeling very good. We'd gone down really fast, and I turned around, and I just mentally opted out, and I just swam, had lots of stops, and with about a K and a half to go, I just got out and walked along the seawall the entire way back to Mairangi Beach.
Yep.
And it was like a walk of shame.
Yes.
And the whole
We've all been there.
the whole time. Oh, I'm glad you
Yes,
so,
we have been
okay,
there.
it's not just a club of
We've
one.
been there, dude.
Good, good. Thanks for the emotional support. Yeah, so I just felt like shit. And I was just walking there just going, there's no way I'm going to swim the Cook Strait. I'm not good enough. I'm shit. I keep mentally opting
This is
out.
how long before the Cook Strait now?
It's probably like 3 months, 4 months out.
Mind games, yeah.
Yeah. So I got to the end and I'm like, guys, see ya. And I drove home and I was just mentally beating myself up. And I got home and walked in the door and saw Michelle and just went, this is what's happened. It was terrible. This is where my head's at. And she said, bad day, you're going to the pool tomorrow. And that was it. It was like, it was the most simple and beautiful advice. Yeah. She knew that was just a terrible day.
Yeah.
Just write it off.
Yeah.
Just park it. And you've got to go swimming tomorrow. You got to just turn up.
Yep.
And I was just like, okay, and I did.
And it worked.
And that's because, like, she was a New Zealand sailor, had heaps of setbacks, and understood sport, and understood kind of what was going on. Yeah. And some days you have terrible days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does she ever get concerned, like, hey, Mark, you're now a father, you've got 3 young kids, like, why are you doing this stupid stuff?
Yeah, I think there is some of that, and I think it's probably more from a perspective of there's an expectation of, we have a partnership and we both want to be really good parents and really intentional and be there for our kids. And this stuff isn't helping that. I think it was more around the time it was taking, but also when I was doing really long training swims, I'd come home and I was stuffed. And often I'd need to have a sleep, and I'd have a sleep for 3/4 an hour. It would normally be I'd go up to the cabin out the back, and I'd go for a sleep for an hour, and then I'd be sweet. Yeah. But I wasn't totally sweet. Yeah. I was still running at like 70%.
Yeah.
And that's just not really good energy when you've got mega high energy children running around, and Michelle's trying to like do 100 things. So she held the fort unbelievably well, and the load that she was taking was just the continuation of that load got exhausting.
Sure.
And I wasn't coming to the party of being a really good partner with holding up my share of the bargain. So I think if you want to do something like this, you've got to be thinking about how you're going to turn up in the other part. And I don't think I did a great job of that. So I'd say I was a pretty less than average husband and father through those pockets of, especially the 6 months of the summers.
I know Brian had a bit of a theory where he'd go one big year, one average year type story to balance family and personal life and, that type of story.
Yeah.
He's kind of got he has done that. It's working a little differently for him at the moment, but he's still been quite focused on making sure that the family balance kind of fits in, because he's got a big goal in mind.
Yes.
And he's working hard at the moment, but he's very conscious of everything else that's going around. And I think it changes as we get older, as the family gets older, things are just different, and you've got to take it year by year, I think.
Yes.
What would have worked 3 years ago doesn't necessarily work this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good adaptable approach,
What does a sort of a pre-Cook Strait training load look like for you?
Swimming 5 or 6 days a week. I'd swim squads 3 days a week. And that was really good for speed, because I wanted to just keep speed there, because what I was doing, and it was really interesting talking to my swim coach, like Mark Bone, and obviously super experienced guy and knows the stuff, and he'd be like, oh, what do you do when you're swimming out in the ocean? And I'm like, I swim from here to there and sometimes back again. And he's like, well, what do you do? I'm like, I swim at one pace. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, you should be doing sets, you should be doing speed, you should be doing some fartlek stuff. You do a big long burn, but then go and do a sprint. And I was
break
like,
it up a little bit.
What? And so I always looked at the ocean as being where you do the long stuff. in the pools where you do the speed stuff. And I've never actually done speed stuff in the ocean apart from the 3K burn with Axel's crew and Neil and those guys. And it's like, holy smoke, man, you're going to swim 3K super quick with these guys. And you're racing really hard. You got to be on it.
So 5 swims, 3 pool swims and 2 ocean swims.
And sometimes a third. So I changed jobs from the bank. So I would say I signed up to Cook Strait to try and give me some confidence in myself. So I actually think I was fundamentally going towards a pretty decent depression. The last 2 years at the bank, I was pretty terrible. I was turning up and doing work, but I wasn't really actively engaged, and I was feeling pretty shit about who I was because of how I was being treated and the culture not being open to the direction and what I thought was right. And I kind of got to the point of just, I found it really hard. So I ended up leaving. I resigned with no job to go to. And I couldn't even apply for jobs. That's how I was not in a good place. And
that's hard,
so I was in a turning up but not really functioning kind of state for quite a long time. And so I actually resigned, and the day I resigned, all that load came off, and I got to a really happy place really quickly. And I went and had a job interview and said, this is what I'm awesome at. This is what I'm useless at. Don't make me do that. If you do this, it'll be awesome for you and awesome for me, and we'll be good. And I only want to work 4 days a week. And they were like, and I got out of that interview and rang Michelle and said, this is how I played it. She's like, what? And I just laid it out totally honestly, and I was who I was, and kind of not a take it or leave it, but actually here's what will work. Because it was so terrible, my previous experience, and I was so broken and so not functioning, I knew I had to switch it to get the good back again. And so I got offered one of the 5 roles.
So they phoned you back?
Which ones do you want? And okay, 4 days a week. So I swam on Fridays. And I'd swim up to 10Ks in the pool. Sometimes I'd go to the ocean, but I'd do a long session in the pool. And it would generally be 8 or 10Ks or something. And then Saturday would be out in the ocean, and it might be a 5 or a 7. And then Sunday would be a long one. And it would generally be with Caitlin and Ivan and Jono and whoever would be up for that. And Susan would turn up, and we would do some of those adventures and Becks and stuff. So, so sometimes it would be an adventure somewhere. Sometimes it would be full steam. Sometimes it would be medium pace and a mixture of people. And it's just cool.
Good people.
A
lot of training, right? Okay. So tell us about Cook Strait.
So Cook Strait, I signed up in June thinking it will be in a year and a half. I kind of hoped it would be in 6 months, but it wasn't. So Phil was pretty straight. It's not going to be there. So trained thinking 18 months. It was supposed to be in January, and I flew down and I was ready to go, and I've been training really hard, and it got called off at 9 o'clock that night because the wind changed. And Mike Cochran had come down, Phil was there, I was staying at Phil's, we were ready to go, went and had a burger, and Phil gave me a call, said the wind's picked up, the forecast changed, it's not going to happen. So I went back to his place and ate a massive bag of salt and vinegar chips and watched some TV and went to bed and flew back the next day. Then I was on notice for the next 4 months. Every 2 weeks as the backup swimmer. So I had to keep training. And it just was so hard.
It's a grind, eh?
It was so hard. So, there's 6, 8 tide slots, and, your heart rate, knowing you're on notice for a 1 week period or a 5-day period, and you could get the phone call at 2 o'clock and fly down at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock and swim the next day. And you do that right the whole summer. Unbelievable. So end of the summer, I was getting really hacked off because I was just like, I was seeing this chance disappearing.
Yes.
And I was like, Phil, can I do it? Can we do it with other boats? What can we do?
What are my options?
Yeah. And, that didn't go down too well, probably, on that front because,
because it's Phil, of course.
Yeah, he's running a business.
Yes.
Wants absolutely loyalty.
100%.
So that wasn't, that caused a fracture in our relationship, I suppose.
He'll forgive you easily, man. He's a good guy.
No, he understood, I think.
Yeah.
Well, he was probably hacked off at the time, but I think, it all worked out okay in the end. But then the second summer, my swim slot was February, because February is much better than January.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen that whole week.
Jesus.
So it stretched out the whole summer until May. And
this is the second summer now.
This is the second summer, and I flew down in April, and I went down for a 2-hour swim, and I came out and met him for a coffee, and I was shaking like a leaf.
Yeah.
And he's like, 2 hours?
Yeah.
He's like, look, you're cool.
Yeah.
But, we're looking at a slot that's the first week of May.
Cold.
It is cold.
Yeah.
Are you up for that? And it was on my sister's birthday.
Yeah.
And we're having a family reunion in Brisbane with my sister for 4 days.
So you're giving up a lot, yeah.
Yeah. And it was all lined up, all booked, and nothing could change. And my brother was out.
But you've been training for 2 years now for this damn swim.
So I'm like, do I do the swim or do I not? And I was like, I don't think I should do the swim because I didn't think it would be good. And so on the day, I'm over and flying to Australia on that day, or in Australia, and Phil sends me a picture of the other guy swimming, and it's 16 degrees, and it's a sunny day, and the ocean's flat, and I'm like, shit! I was just like, and he's just like, so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, he got within 800 metres of the finish, and it didn't happen because it was night time, it was dangerous, and the seas picked up, and it was pretty close.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I don't think I would have made it across. I don't think I was ready, because I think my training I'd gone to Coromandel for 6 weeks during COVID to stay away from people getting sick.
Yep.
And I wasn't training enough while I was down there because I was doing the biggest project of my life at work. Yep. And I was working until like midnight every night for weeks, and I was doing like 4 and 5K swims when I should have been doing 10K swims. I did one 10K swim in that. Yeah. So I don't think I was fundamentally ready. And I think Phil was throwing that sort of back. Okay, you're cool, dude. But I can see he was pretty hesitant. So it was.
So this was 2021.
Yep.
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 So no gap in 2020. 2021, you passed on it, and the training continues.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was so broken, and Michelle was so broken, and it was like, really? And so training was pretty light touch through that winter.
So you were lying in bed at night, like shopping golf clubs and stuff like that, potentially, or no, not yet?
No.
Okay. Cool.
I was still focused on that, but I was broken. Like, I just sat there for 2 months, I just had to pick myself up again. And I found that I can flick a switch, but sometimes it takes a really, really, really long time to flick that switch.
Yeah.
And so I stopped swimming every time we had our children. I'd stop for a year. And the first time it was a month to get back. And the second time it was 2 months. And the last time it was about 4 months to get back to, okay, I can handle squads. I'm in, I'm committed. That's all good.
Get a bit of a rhythm going,
Yeah. So it took a while to get back. That winter was really hard just to keep turning up. And Caitlin was super helpful. Jono was getting faster and faster, and I was finding it really hard going out with him. And we never really... I talked to him a little bit about it, but probably not as honestly as I could have done. So I could stay with him for the first half of the swim, and then he'd smoke me on the second half. And I'd just say, dude, just go. Just go and do your own swim. He needed to train for what he was doing. But he'd gone from a 3.5K an hour swimmer, the next year 3 3/4, and the next year 4, and then a 4 1/4. He was just getting better and better. And I was approaching, 50. And I was just like 3 3/4. That's kind of my gig.
Happy with that.
3.5, I'd be pretty. That's kind of where I'm sitting. I'd love to sit at 4, and I probably could if I went totally all in.
Yeah.
But he was so scientific and so structured and so organised, and he'd be doing everything. And I'm just not like that. I'm just like, I'll do about 80%. I'm not going to think about my nutrition.
Yeah.
I just mow ice cream every night.
Yes.
I'd eat chips. I'd eat pastries. I'd have coffees.
You're my type of swimmer. We get along well.
Yeah. Okay. So I like to enjoy it. So my diet was not good. It's not an athlete's diet. I don't profess to be an athlete. So,
So when did you get to cook?
So Phil's like, should we do it earlier?
Yeah.
Should we do it pre-Christmas?
Yeah.
That'll give you the best chance. And I was like, yep, because I got to my head, I was so desperate to get it done, I would do anything. Yep, fine. So December's in my head. He rings me up on the 20th of November. How you placed? How you going? You ready for? We're going to do it next week. I'm like, what? It was like the 15th. It was like 15th of November or something. It was crazy. Like my birthday's on the 19th of November, and I'm like, I just said yes to him.
Yeah.
And that was the right answer to give. Like it's just like, well, I'm going to take my chance.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm going to get this. This has been such a debacle from where to go.
I'm lucky, yeah.
So we went down on, I think, the 25th or something. I think it would have been the second earliest ever Cook Strait swim.
Yeah.
And the earliest. And we went down and I stayed at my cousin's and they were amazing, looked after us, got up at 5 a.m. 5:30, Phil calls, the wind's up too high. It's not on, but it's definitely on for tomorrow. And so the next morning, woke up, same deal. My brother had flown out from France and landed in Australia 2 nights before. And I rang him up and said, I reckon I might be doing the Cook Strait. So he flew over straight away from Melbourne, arrived after midnight, came and stayed, saw that first morning get called off, saw the second morning, the same thing happened. And it got called off at 5:30 and we had a flight booked for 6:15 or something. And so we just grabbed our bags and ran out the door and got to the airport, and they wouldn't let us take our luggage. So I left that with my brother, and we got on the plane and got back to our kids and took them on the school run. So again, third, and just destroyed, like just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So pissed off, so angry and annoyed. And then, 15th of December, we fly, 14th of December, fly down. We're doing it again. Okay. Let's see how this goes. I'm not having a lot of trust at this stage. I'm just like, seriously, is this ever going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil's got shares in the airport company or something like that, eh?
There was a lot of money. There's a lot of money being dropped. There's a lot of emotional equity being destroyed and burned up in flames. Plenty of stress, I can tell you. I wasn't functioning very well. Yeah. I was so focused on that one thing. I couldn't organise any logistics. I was just doing the fundamental basics of my life. And Michelle was like running around doing 100 things. That was amazing. Yeah. So, got up the next morning, drove out to Mana and hopped on the boat. Met the American guy that was swimming as well. And he'd already done a few swims in the Ocean 7 and he was really quick. And we went out and it was flat as a pancake and it was really misty and just really cool. Yeah. And I get really seasick. Yes. And I had gone to a heart specialist and got all sorts of heart things. I'd gone to the doctor to get all sorts of anti-nausea medicine and I'd gone and checked what can I take that's not going to make me sleepy or give me a heart attack during the swim. Because in the second year, one of the swimmers died at the finish. So, and that was, I watched that funeral online and I was supposed to be swimming there as the backup swimmer to him. Yeah. So that was a really hard thing to process for 48 hours, but Michelle said, you can't give up now.
Mm.
And it kind of needed that level of permission that she needed to be okay with it.
Yeah, yeah.
So he was on my mind a lot for the swim, because I was like, I want to get to the finish. I want to get home to our 3 awesome kids. So that was playing on it. There's a lot of stuff going on with my sister over in Australia. She was going through a really tough time, and going through a lot of just really, really bad stuff. And my brother, who had come out to be there for the swim, and he knew that the meaning of the swim was about Dad, our childhood, going after maybe a bit of a rebuild for me. He might have sensed that. He went to be with her. We had lots of chats about that. And that was the priority. And that was the right thing to do.
Yep.
And it's hard because, I'd like to have had him there on the boat.
Sure.
And he was really cool about it. He's like, just, I'll be there on the rock.
Yep.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll be there on the next one, yeah?
Yeah.
Because there'll be some more stupid shit you're going to do, I'm assuming.
Oh, who knows?
Yes.
Just don't tell Michelle. Yet to be contemplated. No, it's been contemplated. You're getting me in trouble. You can edit that one out. So the swim, I got there. We just pulled up. I was a bit disorganised. I didn't know that we were going to be there right then. And Phil went to me, you need hey, it's 15 minutes. And I'm like, I need to go for a toilet stop, dude. And, got on the boat and I was crying. I was just terrified. I just couldn't function.
Yeah.
And hopped in the water, and it was like phosphorescence and silver and gold and blue and all sorts of stuff as I was swimming.
So you started in the dark, obviously, yeah?
No, the light was up a little bit because it takes an hour and a half to get to the start, so it was light. Yeah. It was dark going out of the marina and then light on the way. Yeah. And so, there's a photo of me sitting in the IRB, and, I just looked terrified. Yeah. Which was totally how I was, and just tears in my eyes and said thanks to both Phil and his son, Sam, with whatever was going to play out. Yep. Hopped in the water, hadn't done my goggles on since, but I had them on for the swim squads, not for the ocean, Yes. And so they're like floppy and useless. They start leaking, and I couldn't fix them. And Phil's just looking at me like, what's this numpty doing? So this happened about 3 times in the first 15 minutes. We swapped goggles. He threw the goggles at me, and they didn't land in my hand. And they started to sink under the water. And I managed to catch them about 2 feet under the water. It was a miracle. And got those on, and he put them on so tight that basically the goggles are at the back of my head.
They were contact lenses,
and it was just So anyway, so for the first 3 hours of the swim, I was really mentally struggling because I was just thinking about my sister and what she was going through. It was not resolved. There was a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, we just hadn't got it all squared away and under control for her. So. I was a real mess. And
you weren't there, yeah? You were, you should have been with your sister, technically, is where your mind is at.
Yeah. You're dragged in many different ways, but I think that was just playing, and it was just, I couldn't find a place for it. So I just kept swimming, and I was swimming really fast and really well, apart from the leaky goggles. Yeah. And, and at about 3 hours, it was just going on, and Phil was looking at me at 2 hours like, how are you doing? And I'm like, just my head. In 2.5 hours, just my head, And he's just looking at me like not knowing what to do with me, I think. He just really didn't know. Yep. And, it's probably not a good sign from his perspective that he's someone only a quarter of the way across or a third of the way and struggling already mentally. Yep. And it's like, oh, God, this is going to be a hard day. And that message must have got across to Michelle, who was on the big boat with Brett Richardson and the captain. And Michelle's a psychologist, and she's got that high-performance sports background, so it's quite a nice combination to have. Yeah. And she's a really thoughtful, measured, pretty just
Yep.
Not quiet, but really considered.
Yep.
She's not someone who will be the life of the party or stand out. She's very good at one-on-one and very good, very personal at that level.
Yeah.
She stood up on the boat at 3 hours. She got the boat to come over to me. I'll get really emotional about this. But she knew what was going on. I didn't want to tell Phil what was going on because I just thought that would put me at jeopardy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to protect that. I didn't want him to know I was worried about the guy who died and my sister and all this other shit going on with me. And, you know. So Michelle just stood up and she's like, think about our kids. Think about all the training you've done. Think about why you're doing this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like 3 messages, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just hit my feet, hit a leak.
Was she wagging her finger when she was telling you
No,
this?
she just stood up and was holding the railing and, you know, things were bobbing along by that stage, a little bit up and down, and she was pretty sick.
Yeah.
And I just put my head down and carried on swimming. And just something really interesting changed in me. So, you know, the swim's an emotional swim for me.
Yeah.
Got nothing to do with the physical challenge.
Yep.
So I thought about Toby and Simone and Lockie and Michelle, and I thought about my family growing up. My dad at the swimming pool and my mum and my sister and my brother.
Yeah.
And I thought about my 2 swim coaches, and I thought about Richard, who's a guy in my swim squad who's just so incredibly helpful in terms of he'd just give me a one-line message. Where are you at? And he'd just hit me with something, and he just knew what to do.
Yep.
Ex-Olympian, awesome guy, just so thoughtful, but he just knew every time.
Yep.
And and Jono and Caitlin and Ivan and just these people that help you.
Yep.
And you go, holy smoke, you know. And so I just said their names over and over and over again for an hour.
Yep.
And it was just like my heart just opened.
Yeah.
It was just like deep gratitude and love.
Yeah.
It was just beautiful.
Dude, you're giving me goosebumps all over here, man. That's the journey, right?
Yeah.
That's why you do it.
Yeah. So
and that's, people don't always understand what you go through to get to the other side, right? It's massive.
Yeah.
I went through a stage early on in my swim career where I've got 5 kids, right? I've got twins twice, and on each stroke I would say a different name, you know, and I would do that for as long as I could, right?
Yeah.
So I get that. I very much get that.
Yeah. And so that was
So
really
then
powerful experience.
You found a better space, I'm assuming, after an hour of that?
Yeah, it just switched me out of that swirling, unresolved emotional state into like a deep love and gratitude state, which is just, you know, there's a whole lot of positivity and dopamine and just a whole lot of love just pouring out, you know. And my brother has some interesting takes on it, and he sort of says that's a really deeply spiritual thing. You know, like some people have this thing called a heart awakening, and, you know, it sort of felt in retrospect maybe a little bit something like that.
Yeah.
Where ever since I'm just a massively, way more emotionally connected, deeper, better person. And it's because this thing has been so repressed and it's blown open, and I'll just cry left, right and centre at all sorts of random stuff at all sorts of random times, like stuff that just sets me off. And I had been a little bit like that before, but now it's just like floodgates. It's amazing.
That's cool though.
Yeah, and it's really cool. It's really good, and it's really unsettling for some people. And some people are like, this dude's like really in touch. And it's been super helpful in so many spheres of my life because I'm a lot more genuine now. But I go towards the heart stuff way more, whereas before I'd probably go really black and white and logical and not very. Not, my EQ stuff wasn't very, and it's not like really evolved or anything like, but it switched something in me.
Switched you to the better,
Yeah, kind of opened up a channel, I suppose, to a different way.
My dad is very much like that, and he would be sitting watching some dumbass movie, like a comedy, and some dude, something would happen and my dad would be sitting there crying, and I'd look at him and say, what's the story? And he'd go, it's got sweaty eyes.
Good old dad.
Yeah. Okay, so
I did that.
So
and
you got to the end.
And then Phil looked at me and went, you're swimming really fast.
Yeah.
It's a perfect day.
Yeah.
Stop slapping your right arm.
Yes.
And so for the first time in my life, I actually did this beautiful entry for the next 1 hour. So mindfulness.
Yes.
Like Phil just giving me a lashing with, holy smoke, man.
Technique.
We're having a great day out here.
Yeah.
So I did that for an hour. And then he's just like, can you just smile? Can you just smile? Like, this swimmer's going so well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You don't know the half of it.
You just seen the top bit.
Yeah. He was just pretty stoked that he was going to get back to the marina early.
Yes.
And I was just like, I'm still thinking about the guy that had died.
Yeah.
And so I've still got an hour or two to go, and I'm still terrified.
Sure.
And I do not want that to happen.
Sure.
And then I start getting a tight chest.
Oh, God.
So I had a tight chest a couple of times, 2 or 3 times in the last 2 hours, and I had to wind it back. And he said, "You're on path for going after Jono's time, which was 6.5 hours."
Yep.
Which I didn't get in Kui of that in the end because the tide sort of changed a bit towards the end.
Yeah.
And so I picked it up and went really hard for about half an hour, and that's when it happened. And then I was just like, no, bugger this. I'm just going to back off. So let's just go back to the 3 3/4. Let's not go at the 4K pace.
Yes.
So I just went nah, and and then got towards the finish, and I just couldn't believe it, and I cracked a joke to, and it's on Facebook Live, and I just sort of bob up and have a look, and I'm like, hey, has anyone seen the South Island around here? And Michelle's pissing herself. She's on the IRB with the Coke in hand and just having a chuckle. And Phil just looks at me and he's just like, just put your head down and keep swimming. And I'm like, dude, you're telling me to smile. I'm finally smiling, and I get that coming back. Seriously?
Trying to enjoy the moment.
Yeah. So coming up to the finish, I couldn't see the South Island until about an hour and a half to go, which is probably a saving grace, I think, because it was really misty and rainy. One of the big pockets of joy was seeing Phil have to get up, stand up at the boat and put on a rain jacket and rain pants, and Sam doing the same. I'm like, these guys are suffering. It's beautiful.
Nice.
I was so happy. I'm like, it feels like sweet revenge for all the shit I've been through. So that's not so great, is it? Anyway, it was true. I was having a chuckle. I was having a laugh underwater in the middle of the Cook Strait. But I was, I'd said I was really grateful to God, I said the ocean while I was out swimming, as part of the gratitude. I said, thank you for being here, allowing me to try and come and swim here today, just really grateful for that opportunity. And coming up to the end, I thought it was going to be this beautiful utopian angel singing, life-changing moment. And it was just a washing machine leading up to these rocks that had kelp on it, and I swam in, and Phil said, be careful, just touch the rock, turn around and get straight back to the boat. So I sensed that he felt like that was a place of danger.
Yeah.
And so I was like, right, I'm in tune with the danger.
Yes. Touch and go.
Yeah, and it's totally what happened. So I just swam in and just touched the rock, felt all this kelp on my hand and stuff, and just swam back to the boat, and they just dragged me up on the boat. And, I couldn't pull myself in or anything. They just pulled me in, and I just looked at Michelle and said, I can't believe I've done it.
Yep.
It was so good.
A relief.
That is,
on so many levels.
that is such a great
Dude.
story, man.
That's awesome, hey?
Such a good story.
And so you couldn't do the dance of joy on the beach because obviously it was too whitewashy, too dangerous.
Yeah, it was just a whole pile of rocks.
Yeah.
There was no beach there.
What was the water temperature? Were you comfortable in the cold? Or
it was funny because
were you
at the start they took the temperature And Phil's like, what's the temperature? And I'm like, oh dear goodness,
I don't want to know, yeah.
terrible. This is going to be 13 or 14. 18.
Oh, nice.
18 in December. That's a March temperature.
Dude. Yeah.
So it was 18, and the last hour it was cold.
Yeah.
And I'd heard that it was cold in that last half an hour or whatever, whatever goes on with the currents there.
So what time did you land up swimming?
7:15.
Which is right up there on.
Yeah.
What's the record? 6.
No, that'll be.
No,
that's the Andy one.
That's Andy. Yeah.
He's sub 5. But yeah. Andy's Andy, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it was funny because I came back and the guys at Swimtastic put up a post and said that's the 10th fastest swim from the north to the south.
Yes.
And it was really cool for me to swim to the South Island because
yes.
I live in the North Island. I always wanted to swim to the south.
Yes.
And one of those days would have been a south to north swim. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to swim to Te Awamutu. And I've got a green stone. Michelle
I was looking at that, yes.
Yeah. So
that's very cool.
Yeah. So, hey, Marto, fish hook, and yeah, just beautiful. And the note she wrote on Christmas Day giving me this was all about resilience.
Yep.
So it's not about the swim.
Yep.
It's about the bloody long journey in resilience.
4 years.
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah. So, yeah. And that's not what I signed up for. And it's definitely not what Michelle signed up for. It's definitely not what our kids signed up for.
Yes.
So, there's a lot of trade-offs, as I said.
Yes.
And we flew back the next morning and it was the last day of school.
Yeah.
And our school's a really tight little community.
Yes.
Michael Park Steiner School in Ellerslie.
Yeah.
And just rocking up and celebrating the kids.
Yes.
So got on the
6:30
flight, turned up to school at 10:30 a.m. and celebrated those kids' last day.
Yep.
And took them home at lunchtime. And, here's beautiful life.
Yep. You look like an awesome dad.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. That's very cool, dude.
Yeah, so, retrospect's been really interesting. What's this way swim actually mean?
Yep.
So for me, it was a rebuilding of ego, trying to find some confidence again.
Yep.
And it helped a lot on that front.
But it gave you so many other things as well, yeah?
Yeah, so I think like all that training, all those setbacks, all that hardship, I can cope with so much at work.
Yeah.
And I can handle a lot of stuff that I could not handle before.
Yeah.
And I've been really lucky to have an awesome team around, and we've just started achieving so much stuff. Yeah. And so leaving the bank, going and trying to help public transport and cycling and just leave the world a better place has been a good mission.
Well, dude, that's been an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Good, thank you.
It's not quite the story I was anticipating hearing from you, but it was very cool. Thank you.
I think that's the best story I've ever heard.
Man.
So many times it's just about the physical and the swimming. No, that's been an amazing story. That's best I've heard.
I find it really good. It's been pretty helpful. I have a lot of beautiful moments out in the ocean, seeing the sun come up over Rangitoto and you're out by Cable Boy.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome, mate.
Cable Boy is where I always have my mid-swim wee at that.
Yeah, well, that's good to know.
Nice.
I'll avoid it in future.
Yeah. Mark, thank you so much, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Cool.
Hi, my name is Caitlin O'Reilly. I'm the youngest person to have completed the Ocean 7 Challenge. If this really cool podcast has helped you learn something new, maybe it's introduced you to new swimmers, made you smile, then please take the opportunity to subscribe to Duncan and Jim's channel. I'm sure they would absolutely appreciate all your support. Cheers.
Thanks, Caitlin. Well, as always, you can give us feedback on our Instagram account @cleverdix or send us an email cleverdixnz@gmail.com. We'd really appreciate hearing from you. And cheers. We'll speak to you again soon.